bring in Jeff Goodman on loan from the Mothership, joining me now on the show. Covers college basketball for ESPN. Jeff, just break it down for me here a little bit, because we obviously expected these Kentucky guys, all 7 of them, to walk away. But in your estimation, how many of them made the right decision?
4. I think 4. Karl Anthony Towns is a 1 or 2 pick, along with Jahlil Okafor. Willie Cauley-Stein's draft stock will never be higher than it is, and he spent 3 years at Kentucky, so you can't fault him. He's, maybe a DeAndre Jordan, Tyson Chandler type. Can't really score, but defensively can obviously change the game. Devin Booker's stock went as high. I mean, listen, this was a guy that wasn't even on the board really going into the year as far as being a one and done. Shot the lights out, has the size. He'll go somewhere from 10, probably low is 20. Trey Lyles, I love, Chris. I know you've had a chance to see him. Skilled forward, knows how to play, was playing out of position at Kentucky, really playing the 3 when he's a straight 4-man. Again, I think his floor is probably 25. I think he goes somewhere from 15 to 25. So those 4 guys, you can't fault them. Now, Dakari Johnson and the Harrison twins, you can go both ways with it, Chris. Like Dakari, I would have come back. I definitely would have come back because, again, you had Towns and Willie Cauley-Stein leaving. Really, he had to beat out, Marcus Lee at this point for minutes at the 5. I mean, he's the only true 5 on the roster. Mm-hmm. So I think he would have played 27, 28 minutes next year, and he's a fringe first-round pick. The Harrison twins, we could sit here all day and argue both sides for the Harrison twins. I think they're straight second-round picks. I talked to about a dozen NBA guys the day they decided to leave, and every one of them said they're a second-round pick. But is their value going to go up next year? I mean, they bring in Isaiah Briscoe. Tyler Ulis is clearly the better point guard for college than Andrew Harrison. I mean, I've said it all year. I really believed if they had played Tyler Ulis 35 minutes a game, and I know Andrew Harrison got better, and I know he made shots, but Tyler Ulis was the guy who could just get everybody shots where they needed it. And I think Kentucky could have won it all. I know. Listen, I'm probably preaching the choir here a little bit, but I've said it over and over. I just think Tyler Ulis was the right guy for that team to have the ball in his hands the majority of the time.
Yeah, and my argument for the Harrison staying, and people get at me on Twitter all the time and say, well, their stock can't get better for the reasons you listed with Tyler Ulis and obviously Isaiah Briscoe, the kid from New Jersey, who is a terrific prospect coming in, no question. But there are areas where these guys can get better. Neither one of them is a particularly good shooter. I mean, Aaron Harrison is the shooter of the family, and he shot something like 32% from 3 last year. I mean, and the other argument to me, Jeff, is that if they have the confidence to go into the pros right now, what does it say about them that they don't believe they can improve enough that they can stay ahead of guys like Ulis and Isaiah Briscoe on the depth chart at Kentucky?
You know what the problem is ultimately? The problem is they came in as top 10 players, and their dad and their pride says we've got to go now because we're supposed to go now. So we came back last year, when a lot of people didn't think we would. I mean, the other part we haven't talked about is how much does John Calipari want them back? We don't know. We don't know if John Calipari was begging these guys to come back, or maybe he had, 2 years he felt like was enough, that their stock was as high as it could go, and he felt like, you know what, Tyler Ulis is the better point guard for my program. And Isaiah Briscoe is going to be really good. And by the way, if these 2 kids leave, we're going to get Malik Newman, who's a top 5 player coming out of the state of Mississippi. He's going to probably choose between Kentucky and Mississippi State here in the near future. And if you still have the Harrison twins, you're not getting Malik Newman, who is a superior talent. Now, will he be a superior player? I think he will. He's like a Tyreek Evans type.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to that about Calipari because you saw in the Final Four interview, and I saw Calipari sitting with Harrison and with Willie Cauley-Stein. He was praising these guys, both of them, for coming back when they were both first-round picks. I think he was blowing smoke at Andrew Harrison early, maybe to put it into his mind that he was going to be a first-round pick. But Calipari is the other interesting part of this equation, Jeff. I know he turned down a pro job last year, was offered the Cleveland Cavaliers job, but what sense do you get that he might be open to the idea of testing the waters if another NBA job comes open in the next couple of months?
Well, I mean, he would have been gone had he known he was going to be coaching LeBron. Let's face it. I mean, if Dan Gilbert comes back to him and something goes wrong here with David Blatt and the team in the playoffs, I think he's gone. But first of all, I always tell people this. How many GMs or owners would take Calipari? It's a small percentage, I think, overall. And then how many jobs would Calipari take? There's only one or two, three situations that I think work for both sides. And how many of them open up? Calipari's not going to lose. He's not going to the NBA to lose. He's not going for a bottom-tier job or even a mediocre job. And how many of those elite jobs? I mean, come on. If Pop ever retires, is San Antonio really going to – R.C. Buford going to hire John Calipari?
Is New Orleans one of those jobs?
Well, I mean, I think it could be only because of Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
You know, again, he's got so many players in the NBA, high-level dudes right now, that, yes, could he leverage that? Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Never say never, but he's not going, again, unless it's a job where he feels like he can compete for an NBA championship.
Talking to Jeff Goodman, ESPN.com, college basketball analyst here on the Dan Patrick Show. If the draft was tomorrow, who would go number one, Okafor or Karl Towns?
Who's picking number one?
Let's say, for the sake of argument, it's the New York Knicks.
Oh, boy. I'd probably say Okafor, but I don't know. I mean, listen, they're so different, and I think they're both going to be very good players in the NBA. The Okafor obviously was the hit pick forever, and he's so skilled, and he's gotten more athletic. And I know he didn't play great in the championship game up until the final couple minutes, but he missed a lot of bunnies that I think he would have hit had he not picked up that early offensive foul with Kaminsky. So Okafor is a terrific player, but you have to run the right system for Jahlil Okafor. There's a lot of NBA teams that I don't think run the right system to take advantage of Jahlil Okafor's strengths. Karl Anthony Towns, he's long, he's better defensively. They're both high character dudes.
And he makes free throws too, Jeff. That's huge.
What's that?
He makes free throws. That's huge for an NBA team.
No, you're right. Listen, if it were me today, I'd probably go upside and take Karl Anthony Towns. I think the other part is, listen, he did kind of what Anthony Davis did the first 3 quarters of his college career at Kentucky. And you know what he did? He went in the post, did what he was told, did what the team needed him to do, and then we started to see at the end of the season what Anthony Davis, and certainly since he's been in the NBA, what he can do away from the basket. Karl Anthony Towns can do so much away from the basket that we never saw. I mean, he never complained. He just went into the post and did what Calipari and Kentucky needed him to do, which I think is such a sign of maturity. And that's why I really like both these kids, because they were both about team.
Good to visit with you, Jeff. Appreciate the time.
You got it, Chris. Thanks,
Jeff.
man.
That's Jeff Goodman, ESPN.com, college basketball analyst here on the Dan Patrick Show.